Hello, this is Mike. I'm the EruditeDM, and I play a lot of Shadowdark. So I want to say hello to everybody that follows the channel and already subscribes. If you're a first-time visitor, glad to have you here, and excited to tell you about a couple of things that I have for sale actually on Drive-Thru RPG, also on my website. But I have two pay what you want. In other words, free. If you don't want to pay anything for them, that's okay. But I have two creatures that you could download PDFs for right now and start using in your game. And actually, one of them is really more like a race, an evil race. And the other one is an undead creature. And I'm going to tell you about both of these. Let's just jump into it. I want to keep this video kind of short. But if you're playing Shadowdark, these are already written for Shadowdark, but you could very well use them really in just about any system that you're playing right now. Let's talk first about the Raven folk. And I'm going to go there right now. I'm going to show you this PDF. This is the PDF that is actually on Drive-Thru, and it's all, like I said, on my website. Who are the Raven folk? What are the Raven folk? Well, the Raven folk were an idea I had for a race of evil characters that are humanoid. They look like a man, except for they have the head and the black feathering of a typical corvid, a crow, a raven, etc. Those type of birds. But these are specifically raven. So with this PDF, I'm going to scroll back down here, and here's the Raven folk, and it explains what they are first, the description. And it says, known as Croakers, they are night-haunting, raven-headed humanoids spawned from a dead god of knowledge, twisted mockeries of the all-seeing ravens of old. They were banished from the sky and now skulk in forgotten ruins and fens. They live to spread fear, whisper omens of doom, and serve their dead god. So the interesting thing about these Raven folk is they are actually featured in my first zine, which is called WARHORSE. And in WARHORSE, like my second zine, Saints, there is a one-shot at the end. It's they're both zines are about 50 pages total, including the one-shot. But the Raven folk are featured in there as a primary antagonist or the big baddies or the baddies in the story, for those of you with a smaller vocabulary. And I actually give you three different levels of Croakers here. There is the Talons, who are just the basic soldier types. There is a Raven bone seer, so a seer shaman class, if you will. And then there is really an NPC, and he is called Marshit, the Murder Lord, as you see here. Let me go through them one by one, and it's a little out of order than what's on the page here. I organized the page this way because it fit better in the columns, but you can read it any way you want. So if you were to get the first zine, Warhorse, and play that one shot, which is called The Horse Lord of Tanashorn, these creatures are featured in there, and you could play along. We actually played it in our Monday night group and extended the adventure, and we can't catch Marshit. I say we, the players. I'm actually GMing this. The players cannot catch Marshit. He keeps getting away with the relic, and they're trying to capture him. So I keep spinning for the next week a new round of our game. And I think next time we play, it'll be session 4 in what was intended to be a one shot. But since they failed spectacularly, we're going to keep playing it. And hey, they're having a good time. So let's talk about the Talons. These are the soldiers, the everyday soldiers of the Raven folk. These are silent stalkers with fearsome raven heads in black and blue iridescent cloaks. So you've seen a raven before, and the way the sunlight catches its feathers, and you kind of get that blue and blackish shiny sheen on the feathers. That's what I'm trying to evoke here. And I wish I had some custom art. I'm probably going to have to get something done for these because they seem to be very popular on Drive-Thru as well as on my website. But like I said, you can get this whole class, pay what you want. So you should check that out and go get it. They are AC 14. They have 10 hit points. they get an attack with claws +3 and do 1d6 damage, or they carry a shadow dagger, which is +4. There's a 1 in 8 chance of silencing the opponent with that shadow dagger for 1d6 rounds, 1d6 rounds. So if you were a spellcaster, you wouldn't be able to use a verbal component of your spell if that's required. If you were a tank or a leader of your party, you couldn't communicate and give orders, that type of thing. They also can carry a spear. I've had them carry short swords as well. So you can see the bonuses there. Now let's talk about their abilities. Their strength is a +3. They're even on dex. They get a +1 on con, a -1 on intelligence, a +1 on wisdom, and a -3 on charisma. They move near. You can see alignment is chaotic, and they're considered level 2 monsters. So what is their special talent? They, like some ravens, they have something ironically I call crow call, because these birds are very close. And what crow call does is they can mimic a voice that they've heard in the last 24 hours. You've seen this dynamic before in movies or in TV shows where the monster, and the one that comes to mind right away is Predator in my mind, right? Where the predator can mimic the sound of talking and whispering and then duplicate that sound again to confound and confuse your players, which is a lot of fun. The next creature here is on the left-hand column, the Raven Bone Seer. In our game, it was a female, seething with black folk magic. AC of 11, hit points are a little higher at 15, attacks with a dagger at +2, a beak attack, or it can use something called Cursed Touch. You see the stats here, +2 on strength and so forth, -3 also on charisma, and you can run through those real quickly. The wisdom is higher though. So what is Cursed Touch? The seer once a day can curse a target with touch. So if you're in combat, the seer has to actually lay a hand on the character. And then your character will have to make a DC 13 wisdom check or save. And if failing, the target suffers D6 of icy cold damage plus disadvantage on all attacks for D6 turns. So you're going to roll a D6 at that point. If you're touched by the seer, you're going to take your damage, your regular damage, and then you're going to roll a D6. And that, say you roll a 3, so for the next 3 turns, you're going to have disadvantage on all of your attacks because of the damage received by the Bone Seer. It also has something called Eyes of the Dead, which means it sees invisible and ethereal creatures. So if you have a planar creature that has that ethereal quality, or maybe a halfling in your party goes invisible and tries to outflank or move around behind for an attack from the rear, the seer can see this character, and that would include magic invisibility as well. So if somebody in your party casts the invisibility spell, or you have a magic ring, we've seen magic rings that make people invisible before somewhere. And then the last skill for the Raven Bone Seer is called Fell Wind. Once per day, the seer can cast a gust of strong, swirling wind that lasts 3 rounds. And I leave that a little open for the GM's discretion to figure out how you want to role play that or play that in a combat situation. I envision you getting hit with that fell wind and then making some sort of strength check to see if you stay on your feet, maybe dexterity, but probably strength. And I probably should have put that in here. I may do that and correct it at some point. I'm always making little adjustments to these documents. And the last character, and in Horse Lord of Tanashore, let me say, we had 1 seer, but I think we had 20 plus soldiers, the Talons. So they were scattered throughout the dungeon. They were up above in the castle complex. And then there was only one of the NPC, who is Marshit, called the Murder Lord. A dark chieftain leads his black feathered fellows. Higher AC of 16, wearing this bone feather armor. And I described Marshit as a tall, lanky, awkward looking character, almost looked like a black knight in black armor with this strange bird-like helm and this special cloak over the armor that looked like feathers, like iridescent black feathers. So even without an image, it evoked a certain fearful quality that the players really were intrigued by, because it didn't sound like anything they knew out of the Shadowdark bestiary, or maybe other bestiaries as well. You see hit points are 24, and Marshit had a mace called Bone Crusher. I called it Bone Crusher in our game. That was a +2 magical mace, or he could attack with his beak as well. And you see all of his abilities there. Considered a level 4 character, and making him the highest level monster of all of the Raven folk. And of course, you could take this idea and elevate it and expand it however you see fit, if you're really enamored with this idea of the Raven folk and wanted to turn them into something in your campaign. So what can Marshit do personally? Marshit has 2 skills. Command Flock, which means the Talon soldiers get +1 on their attacks in combat when they are within near range of Marshit, the Murder Lord. So, you know, boosts his troops' quality when they are operating nearby. And the second one is Shadow Step, which frankly is a little like Misty Step, if you remember that spell. Only once per day, though. Marshit can teleport in near range. And in our game, he used this more than once in one of these sessions to escape and get behind them and run and escape, and they couldn't catch him. So anyway, this is the Raven folk. It's a fun idea. I plan to do more with them and maybe work them into some other campaigns and some other zines. Really would like to commission some custom art to see what Marshit would look like, and the Raven Bone Seer, as well as the everyday soldiers, the Talons. And loosely, maybe it's a pejorative term, a negative term, but they're all known as Croakers among the humans that they were operating with. So anyway, again, you can get this, pay what you want. Just go download it from my website, EruditeDM.com, or it is on drive-through. So let me stop sharing here. And I'm going to show you instead the next thing, which actually is an undead creature, which I'm fairly proud of. And it's undead, and it's called the Spiritus Malus. Very eerie imagery here, as you can see from this female figure in the window of a dark castle or tower. Let's read the description for the Spiritus Malus. And this one's been popular too. And I know pay what you want stuff gets downloaded because, hey, it's free if I don't want to pay anything. But hey, you're also welcome to leave me a couple of bucks if you think, hey, Mike, these are pretty cool. I'm going to use these. Here's a buck. Here's a couple of bucks, whatever. It's all appreciated very much, really. And it does all add up and lets me keep doing this wonderful hobby that I enjoy on the side for my regular everyday work. So let's describe the Spiritus Malus. A creeping vapor writhes from the earth, dense with sorrow and the scent of wet rot. Within the swirling fog, faces form and dissolve, half remembered, half screaming, a foul miasma of a forgotten name, a hateful hellbound spirit spewing deceit and malice. The spirit drifts upon the air, chilling the marrow and blighting breath. Where it lingers, the air thickens with dread, and candles sputter into darkness, which gives you a little hint there, Mr. or Miss GM. You might be able to use that idea to challenge if your players encounter this undead threat in a dungeon or in a haunted cathedral or in any other setting. Might be able to challenge their torch rule or their torch timer and maybe make a roll to see if the Spiritus Malus is actually able to extinguish their lighting. That would be eerie as hell. So let's talk about it here. The Spiritus Malus is an AC 14 and an HP of 20. Its attack is 2 attacks, the Wailing Breath or the Withering Touch. And you can see its strength, dex, constitution, wisdom, and so forth there. Note it has a +2 charisma, which seems a little odd. Might attribute that to the female character here, but it also could be a male. A lot of different ways you could play this undead creature. It can fly, or it hovers really somewhat off the ground, which makes it even creepier, than other possibilities. So it doesn't stride across the floor towards you; it just hovers a foot or two above the ground and moves towards your players when it attacks. So its two abilities are Wailing Breath. Let's talk about that. Wailing Breath is +5 to hit and does 1d8 of necrotic type damage. Targets all within a 15-foot cone. So you're going to need a DC 12 Dex check to save from this damage. And then you'll still get damage, but only half of the damage it would incur, which, as we said before, is D8. So that could help you if you make your save. The second thing it can attack you with is called the Withering Touch, and it also is +5 to hit. It does 1d10 of necrotic damage, and the targets must succeed on a con save this time of a DC 12, or you're going to be moving half speed and fight at a -3 attack for 2d4 rounds. So if you get touched by this thing and you don't make the save, you're going to be slowed. You're going to roll 2d4, whatever that number is. Let's say it's a 6. So for the next 6 rounds, you're going to move at half speed. You're going to be slowed, and you're going to fight because you've taken this necrotic damage, and it's slowed you down, as well as you've taken hit points here. Some other factors to consider with the Spiritus Malus are the unseen. The miasma cannot be detected by sight or smell until you're within near range. Even then, it shimmers faintly like heat on stone. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm in Texas, and in summertime in Texas, if you're looking in the distance down a roadway or the highway, you will see the heat shimmering off the concrete, the hot concrete. That's the effect I'm trying to conjure here for you. Creatures must succeed on a wisdom check of a DC 13 to act in the surprise round. So if the monster attacks you and you're surprised by this, if you fail that attack from the unseen quality, you're not going to get to respond in the actual surprise round. So it will surprise you, and then you roll for initiative after that, but you're not going to get to respond in any way. And I would include movement in that as well. Your character's going to be stunned and frozen in place is how I play that. The sepulchral chain, kind of a hard word to say out loud. Easy to type and easy to write, tougher to say out loud. The miasma is anchored to a forgotten event, tomb, or grave site within 100 feet. If the remains are sanctified or destroyed by your priest or a priest, the miasma loses D6 of hit points per round and cannot attack. So it's tied to something physical within, triple near range, roughly 100 feet. So not far, but triple near, 90 or 100 feet, something like that. So there's probably a tomb. Its burial site was nearby, maybe the spot where it was murdered or killed or executed, that kind of thing. So to give you a creative idea of where to go with this, you can use the sepulchral chain. And always appearing in a solitary sense. This undead creature is all about the way it died and why it died, and trying to spit out its hate and malice on the rest of the world. So kind of a really creepy character, and would be fun to play as an undead. Now, it is level 4, you'll note, under the stat block. So how would you gauge this if you're using Turn Undead? Well, fortunately in Shadowdark, we don't do it the old way, like old school D&D, where we used to have a table, for zombies and skeletons and wights and wraiths and vampires and so forth, mummies and everything else. So the way this is going to work, and I made myself a quick note because I don't often play a priest, but I do GM for priests. So the priest is going to make their regular spell casting check for Turn Undead. And remember, Turn Undead for a priest is a tier 1 spell that a priest automatically receives at first level. When you write up the character, you already have that spell, and it doesn't count against your spell list. So kind of a freebie there, which is nice. So you're going to make your DC 10 check with your wisdom modifier, okay? And if our priest passes, then the turn undead is successful, but the creature in return is going to make a DC 10 charisma check. Now, in this case, the Spiritus Malus, has a charisma of +2. What does that mean? So that means your point's going to be at 12. But remember, if you roll under or tie it, the check, you lose. So you have to exceed it. So that means in this example, if 12 is your point as the Spiritus Malus, the undead creature, you have to roll a 13 or better to be unaffected by the turn undead and stand your ground and continue on with the battle. Otherwise, if you roll between a 3 and a 12, the Spiritus Malus is going to flee for 5 rounds away from your priest. And on a roll of 1 to 2, which is 10 points lower than what you needed, it's actually going to be destroyed. So you never know. You might get lucky there, but it's certainly worth trying turn undead against the Spiritus Malus. So let me close this. And again, this one is, as I said, this is free. It's free stuff. So go and get it and use it however you like in your game. I wanted to show you this real quickly before I go, and that's going to be it for today. But this is DriveThruRPG. I imagine a lot of you are familiar with it and have an account. It's where you can buy PDFs or print-on-demand books and have them sent out to you from just about anybody in gaming. This is actually my page. So if you go to DriveThruRPG and you search for EruditeDM, you will get all my neato stuff here. There's the Raven Folk right here, and right next to it is the Spiritus Malus. You will see they're both pay what you want. Also, the Knight Lancer class, which comes from my first zine called WARHORSE, is on there. And some of these are free also on my website, so take a look at both places. Let me know if you have any issues at all with trying to get these. You'll see everything I offer really is under $8 or less. Most of these are $2. Except for the zines. And the zines, like I said, are 50 pages each, full of ideas and magic and spells, new classes, some new proposed rules for things like jousting, using knights in your game, that kind of thing, along with obviously war horses and all other mundane travel, palfreys and rounceys and ponies and mules, etc., etc. So, and those are only $8. So right now they're PDFs only. I will get to the point where I submit everything for print on demand to DriveThruRPG. I just haven't gotten there, and I'm writing new stuff every day. So check me out on DriveThruRPG. I'm going to stop sharing that now and go back to my screen, and there I am. So that's all I really had for you. I've got a lot of new folks actually following the channel. I'm excited to see that. A lot of them have great comments, and I respond to them really quickly, and I always respond if it makes sense, if it's something worth chatting about. And I'll add my 2 cents, and we have these conversations through the comment section. You're also free to email me at any time at EruditeDM. It's Erudite, ERUDITE, DM @gmail.com. Send me a question, or tell me I'm a bozo and I'm wrong, and you know something better, or you have a better idea. I'm very malleable. This stuff is a work in progress. Like you saw earlier, sometimes I need to add something or tweak something, and I'm more than happy to do that. And when you buy these things from either my website or DriveThruRPG, and I make an update or a change, you will automatically be emailed that EruditeDM has made a change to Spiritus Malus. Click here to download the updated PDF, which is really slick. And I know some of you who do this all the time, like I do, and are kind of active in the quote community. A lot of these things, but I'm just amazed how many new people are coming in and playing Shadowdark every day. And there were, some of us were 2 years ago when we were first checking it out. And it's a new, exciting thing to them. So I don't want to talk over anybody's head and assume that you know everything already. about Shadowdark. Hell, I certainly don't. I'm learning, about it every day, and every time I GM a game and I play in one every Monday night, that's live here on the channel. You can watch. I always have to remind myself. That's just the nature of these games. You can't remember everything all the time. We have a lot of things going on. So have fun. Go play some Shadowdark. I hope to talk to you soon. That's all I have for today. Take care.